The Areteans podcast.
Hello and welcome. This is the Areteans podcast, celebrating the Arete in Areteans. Here I'm Jude, and on today's edition of the podcast, we are here to understand or learn something very valuable, our 5 Arete values. So to give us a better understanding on these important values, we have 2 of our leaders joining us. Mahesh Kumar Agrawal, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Stephen Say, EVP, Customer Success. Mahesh and Stephen, welcome to the Areteans podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Jude. Thank you.
Same here. I'm very well. Thank you, Jude.
Thanks a lot, Mahesh and Stephen, for making some time. I'd like to start with Mahesh. Could you take us through how these values are crafted? Why are they essential to Areteans?
Let me go back a few years back when we actually planned to start Areteans. We work on Pega implementation. When we used to work on Pega implementation back 15 years back, it was a very traditional environment where all the development team used to focus or put 80% of their effort in just the technical side of the implementation, and less than 20%, they focus on the business side. Now, if we look at how business work today, how they innovate, the technical team are far away from the innovative thoughts that the business guys carries. Coming back to Pega platform or the Pega technology, we provides a lot of features in terms of all the technical requirement that a developer require to build. It's all available out of box, and the development team need to focus more on the business, which means they need to align with the thought process of the business so that they can solve the business problem properly by focusing more than 80% of the business design rather than the technical. So in my previous engagement with my previous employer, this environment is not there. And then we decided that if we really wanted to make a change in terms of how the implementation is done, we need a different method or an approach to solve this problem, and that's where we identified few things. We can call it values or the parameters that to get into this new method of doing projects, we need the right business knowledge, right technical knowledge of Pega, and of course the thought leadership that how we drive this by aligning ourselves with the business. And that's where with these 3 core values, we started Areteans. And this is where we are today, that we are able to not only able to survive, but we have expanded globally and really making a difference to our customers in achieving their business, in solving their business problem.
Mahesh, thanks a lot for having that shared with us. Now, Stephen, could you tell us how do the Arete values tie back to the Areteans' vision and mission?
So for me, I think, customer success forms the sort of central hub of everything we do as an organization. And as Mahesh has described, that really or truly underpins the outcome and the value of the organization. So, when we look at customer success, it's all about the outcomes and the value the customer gets from purchasing Pega as a technology, and also then working with Areteans to deliver the business outcomes that they're seeking to achieve with the technology. So, when we sort of underpin how we operate, and we look at leadership in terms of how we drive and instill domain leadership, delivery leadership, technical leadership, into the equation. And then particularly, that underlying philosophy of true commitment and dedication to mission for our customers. That to me is what sort of sets us aside. It's about making sure that we're driving the best possible outcome in the best possible way, and actually taking the customer on that journey and showing them through bringing our own expertise and experience to the table that, it's not a big, scary technology implementation that's difficult, but how we're going to guide you through that journey in a meticulous way to help you get to the goal that you're trying to achieve.
Right. Now, having shared that with us, can you provide instances where you put these values into practice?
So when I look at our customer base, there's a couple of key examples that really stand out here for me, that goes to illustrate and augment the true meaning of Areteans and how we've managed to deliver such great outcomes. So, there's a very large consumer goods company that we're working with, on a global basis. many different projects and programs, many different parts of their business. So, not just operations, but also more customer engagement as well. And I guess the way that we work with those that organization, and the way that we've engaged with them, again, has truly underpinned some of the values that we've talked about. So, working very close and collaboratively, being the customer's mentor and sponsor for their success, taking true responsibility for their delivery. So really owning the outcome. We're engaged as a true business partner to that organization. And as I say, helping them through that journey, showing them the best way to achieve the business vision that they've got, and holding their hand throughout that exercise. When I look at it more from a project and program point of view as well, teamwork is obviously paramount to how we engage. Working as one team, Areteans, the customer, and anyone else that's involved in that equation. And also then, as I say, bringing that expertise to the table. So again, bringing that deep domain expertise, technical expertise and leadership to truly help the customer through that journey and get the result that they're looking for. If I look at a slightly different example, so obviously I've touched upon that as a large transformational program. If I look at a different example with a smaller organization, because again, we don't just work with big organizations, we equally work with smaller organizations that are perhaps less mature or earlier in their journey. And again, it's about adapting the way that we engage with organizations based on them, based on their personalities, making sure that, we're helping them in their way. So when I look at this smaller example, again, they needed something or a solution to launch in a very short space of time. And the way that we engaged with them and the way that we structured our approach was very much around close collaboration, constant conversations, constant engagement, constant leadership and guidance. So again, bringing that flavor of expertise to the table to really hold their hand through this journey and actually teach them along the way. Because as I say, they're a lot more immature, they're less experienced, they don't have traditional experience delivering enterprise IT programs. So really being their mentor and partner through that journey and getting them to that successful outcome was integral.
Right. Thanks a lot, Stephen. Now, how are our team members being encouraged to follow these values?
So as we were talking about all these values or parameters in terms of the right domain knowledge, the technology knowledge, right leadership, all the members at the management level or leadership level, they are always in the front on the ground with the customers to understand their business need. And what we do is that first thing is that involvement of every team member in the project right from the beginning in terms of understanding the business need. And this is a continuous collaboration right from the leadership to the most junior team member in the team to actually get aligned with the business and then accordingly go and do the implementation. So that continuous collaboration helps everyone to be aligned with the vision of the company, how Areteans actually work. There are many times where people join from other companies, they may not get to see the old implementation that we have done. So in terms of enabling them and bringing them to the style that Areteans works, we have continuous enablement workshop where we share all the case studies, our journeys with all our customers, how we achieve, what are the success, even what are the failures, and how do we actually learn from both from success and failure, which is a continuous activity in the company. Third part is that we also hire the freshers from the college. After they go through all the technical training, definitely they need to learn Pega because we focus on Pega. On top of that, they go through all means of gaining knowledge. Again, I repeat, on the business, definitely start participating in few projects, as I said it, to understand how things work. And we give them about 4 to 6 months of time to go through this enablement before they actually start officially getting engaged in the project.
Could you also tell us about how these values have guided you in these last 5 years and how they will show you the way in future?
When we talk about all the high values, it is definitely not easy to always, follow them, but it's actually fun at the same time when we talk about these values. So I would say there is always a constant effort to make sure that every member in the company follows these values. In the past 5 years, if I see when we enter into the market, we are competing against all the big companies having large pega practices. If you talk about Infosys, Wipro, TCS, Capgemini. With these values that we just described in the last few minutes, having that kind of demonstration in front of the customer, we could achieve in terms of our customer base in different geographies so far. And I strongly believe that we don't need to get distracted. We continue to follow our values. But one important element in this all 5 Barrett is a continuous innovation. And the company is following that particular approach based on the change in the market. All our team members having these values always open for innovations and then drive the market accordingly.
So, you know what, I guess for me, maybe a slightly different perspective on it, because I'm obviously relatively new to the organisation in terms of an employee, but, in fact, I've kind of been involved in the Areteans journey from day zero. So in different forms, I've seen Areteans from the outside and worked with Areteans in other areas, but seeing how they have that passion, how the organisation has that commitment around solutioning, around innovation, and of course customer success, as we talked about earlier, which, is one of the reasons why I joined in the very first place. Now, for me, when I look at the future, given what I've observed and witnessed in the past and, what's drawn me to Areteans, I'm really excited to see how the company's going to continue to grow over the next 2 years. We are one of the fastest growing independent and 100% focused Pega partner organizations in the ecosystem. Pega is our pure passion, our pure focus, which means we're putting 110% behind that in everything that we do, to make sure that we are helping organizations be successful with that technology. So when I look at how we're going to take that forward, for me, the idea of us continuing to go above and beyond, the way we're going to continue to invest and grow and become the very best, that for me is the goal, become the best Pega partner player in the ecosystem.
Glad to hear that. Thanks a lot, Stephen. That's Stephen Say, our EVP Customer Success, and also joining us today on the podcast was Mahesh Kumar Agrawal, our founder and Chief Executive Officer. Thank you, Mahesh and Stephen. It was wonderful talking to you. Thank you for being part of the Areteans podcast.
Thank you, Jude.
Thank you very much.
The Areteans podcast.